are the deprivations they have in different regions. And I think it is very important. And this is also true for the methodology that James and Sabina have presented to us. It is not only the number, but it is also which ones. And this is important. Another thing that I would like to say is about this methodological flexibility of both presentations that we have had here. In Mexico, we separated income from the other social space because we thought that it was very important to differentiate a variable, which is income, which is mainly affected by economic policies, and the social development sector, which tries to comply with the social rights of the Mexican people. But from a strictly methodological point of view, either one of the methodologies can be applied with any conceptual framework you have. For example, the capabilities approach. What is important is that when you have two spaces, you can not only differentiate poor and non-poor people, but you can also have the four groups that we differentiate. Or you can have 3 spaces, and then you will have 8 groups, which we could have done with the social cohesion space. Then it is a quite flexible way of thinking, which has also the advantage of being able to put the depth and intensity of poverty into the measures. The other question I would like to answer is about the social cohesion. Since we have to have municipal estimates, then we would use a social cohesion measurement inequality measures and gap measures, as Gonzalo presented. But we have also made some research on social networks, who is incorporated in the income survey, and we will have, and actually we have already, social network estimates of social cohesion. And with other surveys at the national level, we have investigated and we have estimates on trust, on social participation, and with also with discrimination, which are some of the other ways of approaching social cohesion. Thank you.
So just to talk up a little bit, one word about credibility. When we were in Colombia recently, sharing the table, luckily with Sabine and James, there was the issue of how can we construct an autonomous or independent agency against the same executive showing the figures. So there, the issue was there. But in fact, the thing is not about independence. It's about credibility, as you said. And I think that different countries should achieve credibility in different ways. In Mexico, since we don't believe in institutions at all, we had to spend a lot of time and money in designing an institution, CONEVAL, let's say, with all the locks in order to have a credible measurement of poverty. In other countries with less problematic issues against institutions, you may have a different way of getting credibility. And on the other end, I mean, perhaps in England, when they generally believe in institutions, you may have another way of putting credibility. You don't need an independent agency. So that depends on the country, definitely. In the aggregation issue, so well, people like a single numbers. people like, what is poverty right now? What is the number of poverty? What is the actual figure of poverty? Our feeling is that people love that. And that's why somehow we put a single number. Well, in terms of poverty, we have two numbers, average and head count, and we have the third number, which is multiply them together. But like GDP or like inflation, then you need to disaggregate the causes of that number in order to have public policy. I mean, you have that in GDP. You have the number of GDP, and then you see which sectors were the most damaged by the crisis. You do have that, and people like, I mean, people don't feel easy with the GDP of manufacturers, the GDP of what. They have a single number, and then you disaggregate. That's exactly what is happening here. We do have the single number, or the single numbers, and then we disaggregate by dimensions, which is more useful for public policy. Yes, we were very, very careful, John, about courts. We actually had the courts problems. We actually had lawyers helping us in writing the methodology in order to minimize having conflicts with the Constitution and the law. So we are almost sure that what we were writing there, there is no case for courts. So we were really, really, really careful because the opposition, some opposition parties were actually looking very closely to us, and any single mistake should be going to courts. In fact, an opposition party went to court because of the social development law. Because of the regulation of the social development law, they went to court for some certain details. So we wanted to avoid that. So we were really, really careful in writing and having the conception against any possible problem. Civil society, I think the media, that part of the society, the media is catching and is getting a lot of attention to this method. In fact, we in CONEVAL, every single day, which we have to celebrate something, the day of the senior citizen, the day of the children, the day of love, and all of them, we have the opportunity to put in for the press a specific aspect of this method on that group of people. So it is. I mean, and of course, because the numbers are huge, media gets that very, very easily. I think we still need more interest from civil society as organizations. I think we have still to go to that direction and convince them that this is a good way of measuring. If I understand, Manuela, yes, well, Congress sets the cutoffs. As I said, they set the cutoffs. Of course, a possible problem is that if tomorrow Congress set a different cutoff for education, yeah, because of the way we construct it, numbers will change. So we still have to think if we're going to keep the main one and then change it for the cutoff, because we have to change it if we follow our main line of thought. So we have to change that. That's for sure. We have to do that. Otherwise, we'll be not complying with the law and getting the social rights. We only have 1 year for our measurement, for our estimate, so we don't have yet the impact of shocks. So we don't have yet. We'll have the second round on July next year, and we'll see what can we do, linking that increase or decrease in poverty to the economic shock we experienced recently. My feeling is, and I link it to your question, I think perceptions are really important. Perception is really, really important. I have to tell you honestly, we were lucky at CONEVAL that as soon as we were born, I hope I don't get misinterpreted. poverty increased, and CONEVAL said that. And poverty increased because of the increase in the cost of food, and because of crisis at the beginning of the crisis. And the information showed that. So we said that. So we gained some credibility because CONEVAL was saying the poverty increased after a long time when poverty has been reduced. I wonder how would be our credibility if we were born in some years when poverty was decreasing. We wonder how we would face that credibility. That's a fact. That's true. Huh? People perceive poverty should be increased, and it increased. That's why next year is so important for us, because it may go up because of income, it may go down because of social deprivations. My feeling is that it'll go up anyway. So we have to play with. So it's a very good question. And restrictions. Sorry, can you elaborate again? I didn't understand.
If we have the same indicate, but you use a different survey.
Oh yeah, the robustness. Yes, a very good one. We are in the middle of doing that, isn't it, Ricardo? We are in the middle of validating, testing the changes in housing and access to with different surveys. We're in the middle of doing that because luckily we have at least 3 surveys that we have between 2009, trying to show if that's robust. What I think is robust is the access to health, because there is this program, Seguro Popular, which has been increasing a lot in the past 2 years, and it is sensible to think that there was a real reduction. Yes, I'm happy to see you here because you were in Mexico teaching us about impact evaluation techniques, so I'm happy to see you again.
Okay, I'd like to draw this session then to the close, and I think we'll move right along to our next session, which Jaime will introduce.
Well, thank you very much, Pete. Thanks, Gonzalo. I think it was